I'm Andrew Brooks, a Niagara grape grower and sommelier. After moving to Niagara more than a decade ago, I've fallen in love with this region. I want to share with you some of the faces and places that produce amazing food and wine. Welcome to my Crush on Niagara.
Henry of Pelham is a family-owned company. It's run by myself and my two brothers, Paul and Matthew. The original vineyards were planted by shovel. Paul, Matt, myself are friends from school when we were in elementary school. We'd come up here summers and weekends and work this farm and shovel plant the vineyards in the spring and summer. That was starting in the early 80s, but you come to Henry of Pelham, myself and my brothers are zipping around, running around in meetings. Matt's at the crush pad. Paul's dealing with the business side of things. Like, we're all owner-operators. It's a family business.
The Speck family released their first vintage in 1988, but the history of the Pelham property stretches back more than 200 years. The Specks are also founding members of Ontario's standard for quality, the VQA.
Dan, I haven't been back here in a while. These vines are even bigger than I remember. How old are they?
We planted these in '87.
Look at the thickness of this trunk. It's like my calf. Unbelievable.
And those have been renewed. I mean, we've brought them up again.
I know the Henry of Pelham brand is well known, but people don't know all of your history, do they?
No, I mean, Henry was a real guy. He was a Smith. My last name is Speck, but it's Henry Smith. He was a loyalist, and his family came north during the American Revolution. At the end of the war, they were granted land, 100 acres for each of his parents, and 100 for Henry and his 13 siblings.
Wow, and this is the site here?
Yeah, Henry. He planted some vineyards just over here on the other side of the cemetery that when I was a kid were still producing.
A wide array of superior wines are produced from the Speck's expansive vineyard in the Short Hills Bench appellation. But we were here to find out the secrets behind their top-notch sparkling wine, the Cuvee Catherine.
Sparkling wine is an amazing challenge because it's like winemaking in reverse. You pick grapes less ripe, you basically bottle them up front, you ferment it twice, which is totally different. And so it's a completely different process to normal winemaking.
After our brief tour of the winery, it was time for a quick trip out to the Pelham Vineyard to see where the Cuvee Catherine gets its start, as humble Chardonnay grapes.
Well, Chardonnay in the first place is what gives sparkling wines its structure, its skeleton. Right. And then the meat on the bones is the Pinot Noir, is the flesh and the fruit. So you want to have something that's got a good base to build around. And then our top tier, it's a Blanc de Blanc. It's all Chardonnay. It ages for 54 months in the bottle.
How long is it going to take for this to make it to market or to the dinner table?
Too long, the bank tells us.
Yeah.
5 to 6 years for our top wines. For even the entry level of the Cuvee Catherine, it could be 3-4 years.
Base wines are made from underripe, early harvested grapes. Their high acidity creates a strong structure for sparkling wine. Without that refreshing hit of acidity, sparkling wine would end up tasting flabby and boring on the palate.
Fabulous.
Actually not too bad as base wine. Usually I think of base wine as something that takes the enamel off your teeth.
Right, right.
These base wines are barrel fermented and aged for 4 months. From there, it's bottled up and fermented a second time, creating all of those tiny delicate bubbles that dance around your palate.
Yeah, so 100 years ago, this is how the bottle would have come to you. Right. When you bought a bottle of champagne, it's this nice murky substance.
And you just avoid the murky.
Right. Yeah, you just close your teeth and drink it, I guess. But nowadays, for 100 years or so, sparkling wine's been made in a slightly different way. Basically, it's a process called riddling, where you turn the bottles and then tip them. Kind of like this, turn and tip,
wow.
Until you get all the yeast at the neck of the bottle. And that, in the old days, it would take several weeks. Now you can mechanize a little bit of that process to do it in about a week. The next stage would be to ultimately freeze the neck from here to here, and you get an ice cube of wine around that yeast sediment. When you go to pop this, the crown cap shoots off, and it sounds like a gun going off, and the pressure shoots that ice cube out, and then the bottle gets stopped, then topped up, and then cork and all the rrest.
Do you add anything to it after that before putting a champagne cork on it?
Yeah, so you have to put 1 ounce to replace the ounce you've lost.
Right.
So we'll put a bit of 20-year-old Chardonnay in there, a bit of various other things.
So that's like the Henry of Pelham stamp on the sparkling wine production.
Yeah, it's our final way to adjust the wine and get the consistency, and also part of our house style.
So what to pair with such fabulous wine? We set off to the on-site Coach House Cafe to discuss the perfect pairing with local rock star chef Eric Peacock.
The food philosophy here is keeping it simple at every level. I mean, every dish has maybe a maximum of 3 components to it, so it's all about keeping the ingredient real and not doing a whole lot with it.
I've enjoyed thousands of oysters in my life, but I actually don't know how to open one. I'm hoping you can help me out with that today.
They're not hard to open, Andrew, but I mean, essentially, like, what we don't want to do is puncture the oyster,
Right.
if possible.
Or my hand.
Definitely not your hand, but you did sign the waiver?
I signed a waiver.
So essentially, we need to come in through the hinge at the back.
Right.
With leverage, pry the hinge open, and then separate the cup and the lid, and then go below and just cut the muscle.
Right.
This is the safest way of doing it. Twist to pry open.
Kind of hear the crack.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then with my hand, I gently will pry the lid off, turn the cup, and sever the muscle.
Wow.
And
Oh, I got it. Wow, look at that. So, and I don't want to let all that
No.
kind of juice on the inside
yeah, we
leak
call
out,
it the
do I?
liquor.
The liquor.
The oyster liquor.
Let's see here.
Yep, and now just follow the shell with your knife.
Oh, I
there it
see.
is.
Okay.
And with your hand, pry it off.
Okay. I
Yep,
did it!
Perfect. Now, before you pull that off,
Right.
scrape. And then I like to twist the oyster itself, and the muscle is right there.
Is it right here?
Yeah. And a little gentle scrape is all you need.
Oysters and sparkling wine, I mean, of course, it's a classic pairing.
I made this mignonette
Right.
with fresh shallots and apples and chilies.
Excellent. That salty brininess and that foam in the sparkling wine is really a match made in heaven. Perfect. Any pearls in here?
What a great day with our friends at Henry of Pelham Winery. A special thank you to Dan Speck and Chef Eric Peacock for giving us an inside look into world-class sparkling wine production and hands-on oyster shucking. And with that, the tour at Henry of Pelham has come to a close. A fabulous Niagara winery where old meets new, but in the best possible way. For more information or to take a tour of your own, check out their website at henryofpelham.com. Thanks for coming along on this adventure of Crush on Niagara.